time today in the center of Beijing when a man walked to the middle of the Avenue of Eternal Peace,
Well, all right. Welcome back to the Survival and Basic Badass Podcast, Kevin and Chuck. Well, today we're going to talk about September 11th, 2001. 9/11, we've been doing this podcast for I don't know, a long time, since I think about 96, a long time, or 2016, I don't know, a long time. I have no idea when we've been doing it, but bottom line is we've never touched on 9/11.
Yeah,
And
we haven't done a show on 9/11 yet, have we?
I think as New Yorkers, we're both not from the city, but
Right.
being from New York, it does hit home, and it is a hard topic. I find on September 11th, I never want to listen to the radio. You get in the car and they always replay that stuff on all the radio stations. Maybe they don't anymore, but I know at least the stations I used to listen to, they used to all the time hit that, and it would be like traumatic, and I'd have like PTSD from it. I'd be like, oh, I can't do it. I did watch a ton of stuff to do research on this episode, and I definitely, we're not going to have any of the dramatic emotional scenes. I couldn't do it. It's too hard. Those are the things that they get me. I'm like, oh, I can't. You have the people, just you hear the pain and the horror in their voice, and it's just brutal. It was horrible. So, Kevin, I have a timeline of events. I have what happened on that day, and I kind of want to go through that quick, if you guys bear with me, and we'll kind of outline what the known knowns are, to quote Rumsfeld. So the first thing is, right, flight 11, that's an American Airlines flight that ends up hitting the North Tower. It was a Boeing 767 flight. Oh, it says flight 11, carrying 92 people, including 5 hijackers, departed from Logan International Airport in Boston, Massachusetts, bound for LA. At 8:14, the hijackers took control of the plane. Now, mind you, they had knives and box cutters. That's what they snuck on there. But the one thing I always find hard to believe is we were so conditioned to just at that point in time to just let the police handle things. There's always a professional out there who, is going to take charge. Just let the police handle it, because even from remote, far away, they know better and can handle things better than you can as a civilian, as a common citizen. You're just not trained, and you're just going to get somebody killed. I think that was kind of the idea in people's heads. And that, you guys have heard me talk about where, I think, oh, the paramedics are here. They'll know what they're doing and they're better, and I should just stay out of the way, but that's not always the case. And I think we kind of learned that on September 11th. 8:46 a.m., that flight crashed into the World Trade Tower between floors 93 and 99 at going 466 miles per hour. Caused a massive explosion, severing all 3 stairwells and trapping hundreds of people above the impact zone. All right. So that's the first one. Next flight, 175, also a 767, carrying 65 people, including 5 hijackers, left Logan Airport bound for LA also around 8:42. And that plane, the transponder code was changed, altering air traffic controllers to hijacking, alerting them to the hijacking. At 9:03, 175 crashed into the South Tower between 77 and 85 at 590 miles an hour. Captured on television as media was already covering the North Tower.
Right.
And that caused the explosion. All right, that one. Now, we also have Flight 77. 64 people, 5 hijackers departed from Dulles International Airport in Virginia, bound for LA at 8:51. That's when the hijackers took control of the plane, transponder turned off, and deviated off its course. Um, and then that's the one that actually crashed into the Pentagon.
Right.
Then there's Flight 93 in Shanks, the one that crashed in Shanksville, Pennsylvania. That was 44 people, 4 hijackers left Newark Airport bound for San Francisco. They all wanted the big, like, long flights because they were worried about,
Right.
lots of fuel, right? 9:28 a.m. took control of the plane. Unlike the other flights, the crew were able to make phone calls, and actually it says via airphones, learning about the attacks, and then the crew took action. Because that's the thing. Let's kind of talk about that for a minute. I mean, that's basically the rundown of what happened. Uh,
Hmm.
if we could go through the South Tower collapse, 9:59, North Tower 10:28, and then Building 7 later at 5:20. We're going to talk about Building 7 a little bit because there is a lot of conspiracy crazy going on with that.
Hmm.
But let's talk about that mindset for a minute, Kevin, of people didn't react. And then once they heard, I guess there was a guy on the phone with his wife, and she was like, the other towers, you guys have to do something.
Right.
What
Right.
happened?
Well, I mean, when you're on an airplane, um, and you see some dude grab a stewardess and slit her throat with a box cutter, like, it sends a message. You know what I mean? You don't want to get other people killed. You know what I
Right.
mean? Maybe they're gonna fly somewhere weird, land, and use you as a bargaining chip, and everyone's gonna go home and be fine.
It's
You know,
happened before.
it's happened multiple times, right? Most people at that time didn't see terrorists as suicide killers. They didn't see it as a suicide mission, just, trying to bring attention to whatever
To their
their
cause or
buddies
whatever.
in jail, or yeah, exactly. You
Well,
know,
we'll blame the Irish. The I don't I think that's a thing. We'd never seen it before, and it's not. It may have been very true, the suicide bombing thing, but I don't really recall it in the Middle Eastern cultures. But in America, it's never been something we've been exposed to or seen.
right.
That wasn't a world that we knew.
Hmm.
And, you're always told, you can't imagine a bunch of people willing to take their lives. I couldn't wrap my head around that before, 9/11 as a real thing.
Hmm.
So that's something. But we definitely were conditioned one way and taught to be that way. Now, there are a lot of clues that led people to kind of, they say, the 9/11 conspiracy theories, or
Right.
why people think this is scandalous, and why, you know, there's more to the facts than what we see. Now, obviously, there's a lot of backstory that happens and a lot of buildup that I mean, you're talking about, I didn't add it up, but basically we're looking at, is it 20, 21 hijackers? There was a
19
lot.
hijackers.
19?
Yeah.
All right.
So there's supposed to be 5 on each plane, and
And
something
there were
happened to
4
the
on the one, right?
yeah.
Yeah. So if you have 19 people, kind of a coordinated attack, there's going to be some intel getting out. And there
Right.
was. I mean, after the fact, we saw that. I know there were several quotes we saw on that Michael Moore movie, Fahrenheit 9/11 or whatever. He's like, I guess there's a speech where, I can't remember his name, but it's like, we had no clue leading up to it, and
Mhm.
and there were lots of clues, but with that many people coordinating something together, there are clues. There had been attacks on the World Trade buildings prior to 2001.
Right. Right. There have been bombings there before.
There was a Ryder truck that they filled up with, it was basically ammonium nitrate. It had a different name, like urea nitrate, I think is the exact wording of it. that they filled up and blew up in the bottom of the building. And I think they realized that wasn't enough,
Mhm.
that wasn't going to do it after that. And they were like, how do we do this bigger and better in their mind, right? Better to accomplish their goals. So we knew that was coming, but there's bound to be some insight. But anyway, so one of the big things that go to the scandal conspiracy stuff is there was all kinds of stock shorting happening prior to this.
Right.
Now, I say all kinds, but it was like the largest volume ever, but it still doesn't seem that huge to me. But if you think about it, it's maybe a small number of people doing a lot of trading. September 6th, 2001, there were 3,150 put options. That's basically shorting a stock on United Airlines, which is 4 times the daily average. September 7th, 2,724 put options, 5 times the daily average on Boeing, shorting it. September 10th, 4,516 put options on American Airlines. So there was a buildup of stock shorting. Now, people automatically in the conspiracy world conclude, well, that means people knew this was going to happen.
Mhm.
Now, I feel like people knew something bad was coming. The terror level was high.
Mhm.
They were, and there had been talk about people using planes and things like that beforehand that were
Mhm.
leading up to this. And so I think it doesn't guarantee they knew this was going to happen, but I think they clearly knew something might happen and there was a good chance. And that's what shorting stock is I think something bad might happen. I'm going to take a chance because you can get out of it if nothing bad happens. Usually, you just
Mhm.
sell the stock back just as long as it doesn't go way up. If it
Right.
unexpectedly goes up, then you're screwed. But if things just kind of stay the same, it's a big risk. And that's the same risk that you take of it might go way down when you buy a stock thinking it's going to be good, right?
Mhm.
So that's the thing like that. So they actually investigated this afterward and the SEC. And but here's what I found very concerning. The SEC says, well, we investigated the pre-September 11th, 2001 trading and concluded there was no evidence that of anyone with advanced knowledge of the 9/11 attacks, including terrorists and their associates. And all the stocks or the trades were executed by I'm looking for the wording here, by reputable sources.
Okay.
So obviously it was only good people doing it,
Only
Kevin.
good people doing
People like politicians and
it.
things
Right.
like
So
that.
Osama bin Laden wasn't trying to build up his fortune by shorting stocks because he knew
Exactly.
he was gonna be
Exactly.
involved in a situation.
Now, Hillary and everybody else, they may have, but again, does it mean that they knew, this was going to happen? Or does it mean they had insight that something bad could happen? And saying, Kevin, something bad could happen. How did you not stop it? Well,
Mhm. Right.
I don't know. I don't know what. So there's a lot of other conspiracy theories out there besides just the shorting stocks. There's a lot of things that came out of these movies and documentaries and reports. Let's kind of debunk some, Kevin. Take me down the line here. Tell me what concerns you.
Well, let's talk about controlled demolition. I see a lot of people talking about it, about how the towers fell like a free fall, how they
Yes.
didn't fall one side or the other, it just fell straight down on itself like a controlled demolition does. Um, that it would involve a lot of explosives on multiple floors for that to happen, right? You don't just set up, you don't blow up one corner, to destroy the structural integrity. You have to hit all four corners and the center main structure in the, in the center of the buildings.
Right.
And if you saw the building fall, if you watch it, it goes floor by floor like it pancakes, the next
Yes.
one, the next one, the next one, which would imply that you would have explosives on every floor that didn't detonate until after the plane hit. Which, if a
Okay.
plane crashes into the building, to me, it seems like if you have it all rigged properly, it might not work. You know what I mean? It
Right.
might not go off because all your wires, your whatever, however you're operating the
Got
explosive,
crashed by a plane.
right, might be destroyed. So it seems like a poor plan if that was a plan to.
Yeah, or darn near impossible, right?
Mhm.
So there's a lot of things with that. So they do say, they talk about. I will say, there's a documentary. I think, is it the Fahrenheit 9/11 with Michael Moore, that says about where you have all the engineers that agree. They look at it and they don't think that that's how it would have went from a plane crash, and that
Mhm.
there's a lot about the temperature of steel and when it melts and the prolonged and the heat of the
Yeah.
thing. I looked at that and I didn't really, it didn't convince me. Now, at first I was like, yeah, it does go down like a controlled demolition. But the more I started thinking about it, I was like, but how would a big building like that fall anyway?
Right.
Like, if it's gonna come down, like, because we have nothing to compare it to.
Right. It's not going to tip over like a tree.
When
Yeah.
have you seen a skyscraper just go?
Mhm.
Um, I I don't know. I don't. Another one I always saw all over the internet. They always say, "Well, remember that time that plane crashed into the Empire State Building,
Mhm.
and nobody, that one didn't collapse." Well, I looked at that. So the plane that crashed into the Empire State Building was a B-25,
Right.
and it was, basically what, prior to World War II, I believe, and it left like a hole in the side of the building, but not like the other one. Well, the thing is, a B-25 is a lot smaller than the, what did I
And
say
the
it is,
Boeing, right?
767 than the Boeing. I think it
Mhm.
was 767, 757 was one of them, and the other was a 767.
Right.
So,
So it's
okay.
about a quarter the weight.
Yeah, it's way different. It's completely different plane you're talking about here. So that one I kind of dismiss. I have to kick that fallacy to the curb. The next thing I say that, it is weird that it hung in there. I honestly think that I can't believe the steel collapsing. Now, again, we're talking about it. You really have to collapse the steel on the one floor. I feel
Mhm.
if you drop 20 more floors above it onto the lower half, that's going to cause a pretty big disruption.
Right.
20 floors of a building falling on something is kind of a big deal. I feel like that would be bad. I think your biggest argument of the collapsing for me is Building 7. How the hell did Building 7 fall down? That
Mhm.
makes no sense to me whatsoever.
Now, Building 7 was on fire. Is that right?
So
At the
I
time?
looked that up. They said Building 7 caught on fire. Now, that's the one that collapses at 5:20. So what, 8 hours later, something like
Mhm.
that?
Right.
And 7 hours maybe. And so that collapses at 5:20. They said that it caught on fire because of debris and stuff from the other two buildings. And that just sounds suspicious to me. Because the collapse was huge. If you watch those videos, if you saw the news that day, you just see a wall of debris going blocks up the streets in
Right.
between the buildings. It's
Right. And if you had
amazing.
said Building 7 had collapsed,
From just like a
immediately
gush of
after,
air.
right,
Yeah. Like, the
that wouldn't
shock
be as
wave.
suspicious.
Right. That wouldn't have surprised me so much. But for it to kind of catch on fire and weaken and collapse, that that did seem a little suspicious
Now,
to
what was
me.
going on in Building 7? Because people say that there's a lot of stuff going on in Building
So
7 that they were trying to cover up.
right. Now, Building 7 had a secret CIA outpost. in
Mhm.
there. And it also had like an emergency preparedness center for FEMA going on in there. So there was a lot going on, in there. But there's some theories I'll just touch on quick. They had talked about in 1984, Boeing made a remote control 720 or some Boeing plane that was remote control. And it's weird because in the documentary that I saw, they said it flew unmanned for 16 hours. Now, here's where I have a question. 16 hours and 22 minutes with 10 takeoffs and 13 landings. Well, if you do that math,
It don't work. That don't work out, man.
something sounded suspicious to me. I'm like, I'm not sure that I like watched it twice. I'm like, wait, wait, what? But, I don't know. So they can fly a plane remote, obviously drones and things now, but
Yeah.
the technology was there then. I was aware of some kind of technology like that when I was in the Navy, of planes and being able to fly them remotely. There are certain things I could probably mention, but they're probably still classified. I don't know, but I do know the technology has been around, and it definitely was around in 2001 that we could remotely fly a big commercial plane.
Mhm.
Um, so what else? What's the next conspiracy theory that we kind of need to dig into with these? So the controlled demolition.
Right. Right.
What are the other concerns?
It was an inside job.
Okay.
George Bush did it on purpose because he's an evil genius,
He is an evil
and
genius. That guy.
he planned the whole thing. And him and Osama bin Laden, they were like, bestest buds. I don't know that that's actually part of the conspiracy,
All
but
right.
the idea was that either it was planned by the United States government to take control of oil in the Middle East, or it was allowed to happen by the government. They knew it was coming, and they didn't do anything to stop it. So one or the other. So I don't think the inside job, in the sense that it was all planned by the United States government, can really hold water, because I think it's pretty clear that there were other groups involved.
Well, there was also the video of Rumsfeld with we lost $2.3 trillion.
Yes.
Just happened to be the day before.
Hmm.
And so maybe he was trying to cover that up, right? But that's the thing, is there's a lot of coincidence.
Right. So the third plane crashed into the Pentagon, and hypothetically, it was exactly right where they were putting all the paperwork together, trying to figure out where that where that what is it, 1.2?
2.3.
$2.3 trillion.
It is.
Yeah,
However,
I'm off by $1 trillion. That's
trillion.
not a small mistake.
I wrote it
But
down. However, that number has grown. It was $2.3 trillion then. Guess how much money the Pentagon can account for now? Well, take a wild guess what that number's become.
oh, Jesus.
$21 trillion.
That's not even a real number, dude. That's not even, there's not 21 trillion of anything. There are 21 trillion stars.
Dude, $21 trillion the Pentagon can account for. So you don't even need to worry about that 2.3.
Yeah,
Like,
that's nothing.
you're like, oh, well, you know what we could have done with that 2.3? Really?
Mhm.
All right, here's another one that kind of backs up your insider job theory. Larry Silverstein. He had taken out on July 4th, 2001. Now, sorry, he's the guy who leased the property in the World Trade Towers. He's the money guy behind it all at the time, right?
Mhm.
And on July 4th, 2001, which is kind of a weird day to be doing business on a holiday,
Mhm.
doing banking business. But anyway, Larry Silverstein took out $3.5 billion in insurance on the complex. And $3.5 billion. Now, I was always told the insurance company didn't pay. but that was at the time. Turns out he said, yeah, but since 2 planes hit the tower and it's 2 separate claims at 2 different times, I want to be paid twice and I should get $7 trillion.
Mm-hmm.
Or billion, sorry, 7 billion.
Yeah.
It was actually, he was paid, it was settled 4.55 billion in 2007. So there was some money made that day.
Mm-hmm.
And it's weird because we all had to shell out as America the money to build the Freedom Tower.
Right. Right. He didn't
'Cause-
use that money to rebuild. It's like when you're in a car accident, but you've got a shitty car. Somebody smashes your car up. You just keep that money. You ain't gonna fix those dents.
Yeah, but does America own the Freedom Tower?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, we get the benefit of going, look at that big building.
Right. We
But
can
you
go
don't
look
get
at it.
You don't get a rent check every month, do you?
Mm-hmm. No, they're not paying me.
Okay, because I keep looking in the mailbox for mine.
Does
The
it?
same, I keep checking the mailbox to see if some inheritances come in that I was gonna get. They're never there. I
20
don't
years
get
I've been waiting on those checks.
it. There was also another claim is NORAD was kind of told to stand down and things like that. And I think that's kind of shenanigans. It kind of goes to, like they say, oh, it took them forever, but not really. I mean, some people would suggest that maybe that one in Pennsylvania was maybe shot down by a plane.
I think it was, man. I mean, personally, I think it was.
Did you ever see that lady pilot, like the interviews with her? The lady was supposedly following him. She was supposedly, the fighter jet pilot, and yeah, it was bad. You see a lot of emotion there.
Yeah.
But again, would you have a lot of emotion if you shot it down too? I don't.
Yeah.
I don't want to be a horrible person.
I
who
mean, would
thoughts about it.
anybody like? I mean,
I don't know what happened that day there.
would
in
would that
Pennsylvania.
be? Would anybody benefit in the United States government if they're like, yeah, we shot that down? No. I mean, you want to think that there are some heroes on that plane. They tried to save the day, and they just we're not fast enough. But I mean,
Well, they saved
you really
the day
want to
from
be coming out,
hitting the White House or whatever,
right.
in a DC or wherever they thought it might go.
Mhm.
I think
And where else
they were
would you
going
want to shoot it down? Like, would you want to shoot it down over Washington, D.C. or out in a field in the middle of nowhere in Pennsylvania?
right.
If you're going to shoot a plane down, that's the place to do it.
Yeah, that you can't argue that. So that's another. Now I gotta say, so the building 7 does concern me. I can't wrap my head on how that building collapsed. All right, but the next big one, the next big red flag for me is the Pentagon getting crashed into. That plane just seemed to disappear.
Mhm.
And how is there at this point no video of it? Because remember, at that point, all the planes were supposedly grounded. So if people saw a big plane coming into DC, I would imagine now everybody didn't have cell phone cameras like we do now,
Right.
but everybody would be watching that thing, like you'd be like, oh crap, something's going on. And there's still cameras and video cameras and things like that back then. It wasn't that far back in history,
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, what are your thoughts on that? Because dude, the motors, they found one part of a motor and Boeing looked at it and was like, that isn't part of our motor. We don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, I read that it was captured on 3 CCT cameras, but I haven't seen any of the video of it.
They classified it all right away. Supposedly it came out later.
Yeah.
And you could see stuff, but again, it kind of looks, you can't tell anything. The hole, where did the wings go? That's another big thing.
It seemed like the wings were,
they kind of collapsed, but I mean, the Pentagon is a big, concrete, solid building.
right.
And
I mean, it's
wings,
supposedly, hardened against explosions. The glass is 1.5 inches thick, hardened glass. It's concrete, it's reinforced concrete, the building itself.
Yeah.
So it's a sturdy building. It's not, it's not built out of wood framing and sheetrock. But I don't know. It does seem suspicious. It seems like there's more of a hole in it than a the buildings, the World Trade Center buildings looked like they had a plane shaped hole in the side of them.
Right. Yeah, it added
where the
up,
things
right?
hit.
Yeah. And that's, I don't know. That really it was hard. But hey, now another thing, here's my next conspiracy theory here. Prior to September 11th, we had a standing order to shoot down all hijacked planes. I know that goes back to like Reagan. Because remember, we don't negotiate with terrorists. We don't
Right.
play around. You're not going to win if you try.
You
and
can't kill your hostages if we kill them first.
That's right. We're on it. So, however, June 1st, 2001, they were like, you know what? Let's get rid of that. We're not going to do that anymore. That's when they changed the law. But then here's what's even crazier. After September 11th, 2001, they're like, you know what? We're going to do that again. Let's go back to
Change it back.
Yeah, change it back. So, that's something you need to kind of be aware of. There was an FBI informant that comes up in a lot of the conspiracy theories, a guy named Randy Glass, who was working, he was an informant for the US government, and supposedly Pakistani intelligence told him the towers were coming down and that they would use planes as weapons several weeks before the event. Now, I can't fault the government. Well, you had that one tip,
Right.
like, well, yeah, but you had that one
You
tip.
probably get thousands of tips like that every
day, right? And that, I mean, yeah, it's something. And then, what? We should shut down commercial air traffic in the. Well, yeah, if I knew that was going to happen, that would have been the right play.
Right.
But did you really know that was going to happen based on one tip and not? So that's hard. I think, I don't know. I think it kind of comes down to Rumsfeld gave a speech at the end explaining it all. And I had to write it down word for word because it kind of, you can't really paraphrase Rumsfeld. He's, he's solid on his own. You don't want to misquote anything. And he says, there are known knowns, there are known unknowns, there are unknown unknowns, but there are also unknown knowns. That is to say, things that you think you know that it turns out you didn't know. Or actually, his words, that you did not.
Okay.
So that's pretty much how I feel about the whole thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Rumsfeld is really good at talking and not really saying anything, but I don't know.
He's good at confusing me.
Yeah. If I was,
and he has that evil smile that, like,
I used to say anybody in the government at that time was evil, it was Donald Rumsfeld.
If somebody was coordinating and knew about the inside job, I would look in his direction.
Yeah.
Like, I would even say that it's possible that he knew something bad, but W didn't.
Right. Right.
Like, it's possible. Or, but there is that movie that suggests that Dick Cheney kind of knew everything about government. And
yeah, Dick Cheney. I want to take that back. If there was one evil person in the government at the time, yeah, Dick Cheney was he's the type of person that I'm glad didn't work for China.
Right.
He's like Henry Kissinger kind of evil. You know what I mean? Like just a Machiavellian evil dude. And he made a lot of money, after being vice president. He went from being super rich to being really super rich.
There's in the Michael Moore movie about 9/11 and Fahrenheit 9/11, they have Bush saying, "Oh, well, we have my rich donors, and then we have all you guys, my rich friends and my really rich friends, or something along that line." And you're just like, "Yep, exactly." Now, here's the thing, though. So, whether conspiracy or not, there is no argument that can be made that the government didn't capitalize and cash in on 9/11. And I don't necessarily mean cash in on money. I mean cash in on exploiting the American people.
Mhm.
And if you're like, well, Chuck, I don't know what you're talking about. What about the Patriot Act? Dude, we went from happy-go-lucky America to like police state overnight. And I'm not saying like we're not Nazi Germany police state, right? We're not that in any way. Instead, what I mean is we went from like if cop came up to you, you'd be like, what, dude? Like,
Yeah.
keep moving, move
Fuck
along.
off.
Whereas
Yeah.
now you have to show me your ID. You have to identify yourself.
Yeah.
You could be
And
a terrorist.
Yeah, and it
I
might
don't.
not even be legal in like in New York State. If a cop comes up to you on the street and asks for your ID, you don't have to give it to him.
But
See
what
what
happens
happens
if you
though?
don't?
You're gonna end up getting your ass kicked.
Surprise.
Yeah.
And and that's how the police started getting all the government vehicles,
Mhm.
the surveillance state, right? The FISA courts, right? That
Right.
the secret courts that we don't have to tell you about, and we can just issue warrants and surveil people and monitor all the phone calls. And well, if it's a person talking to somebody outside the United States, or maybe a person talking to somebody who talked to somebody outside the United States, or maybe
Right.
somebody who, works at the office and there's that guy who calls his mom in Pakistan.
Mhm.
We could probably surveil you too, because
Right.
you're probably, I mean, it kind of went like that. It was like dramatic extreme, way to
Mhm.
the other end.
And as
And
soon as they had the ability to track everybody's phone calls and everybody's text messages, they did. As soon as they were able to do it, like technologically able to, they started doing it.
so you might want to, if you're worried about something like that, look into the Utah data center and how big that is and how much information. You're like, well, they can't record everything. Okay.
Yeah,
They can.
they can. They can.
They can. And then you're like, yeah, but they don't have enough people to sit around and listen to everything. Have you heard about AI?
Mhm.
Have you ever had AI scan things? Like it might be a thing that could happen. So I'm just saying
Mhm.
that's something to look about. Who knows? But that's basically the gist of 9/11 in a nutshell. And we never wanted to touch it because it just is hard. Or me, I don't know. Kevin, did you think about doing this before? I always kind of was like, it's a touchy, hard, ugly topic that it's hard, man. Feelings are hard, Kevin. I don't like them. I push them down to a darker place.
Yeah.
That's
No.
my general rule.
That's just the general,
The consensus.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
how you operate as a man in America.
I will say if you're into like the hardcore conspiracy facts and want to know more and want to see what really came about of it all, go to 911truth.org. There's a website that's been around forever and they just compile video after video. That's where you're going to find a lot of the facts and a lot of the theories and then where they got the theories. How about that?
Right.
And whatever. So what was your take, Kevin? I mean, we don't want to go on forever, but what's your consensus? Do you think that, well, one, let's go through a couple theories. Do
Mhm.
you think that the US government actually caused the attack intentionally and like set up charges in buildings?
No, I don't think that they did anything to make that terrorist attack happen.
All right.
What about you? What do you think about that?
Was there a missile that went through the Pentagon or was it a plane?
I'm still on the side of plane, but
Okay.
I could be convinced.
I hear you. All right. So I think I gotta say, I thought, especially Building 7 and I thought a missile through the Pentagon up till doing the research for this episode. When I went through all the video and all the facts we have right now, I feel like they knew something bad was coming. I think there was, the stock shorting. Like I said, I think the terror level goes up. I think one of the things that came out of the Patriot Act really was the agencies sharing information and coordinating together. I don't know that they actually do it, but I think it became clear they weren't doing it.
Right.
And they said they were going to start. I don't really believe that they're really sharing everything right now, but at least there is some more dots being connected. And I think that was a big thing that's a benefit. So my answer is, I do not think the government did any of that. I don't think there were explosives in buildings. I don't think they did it. My big thing with watching the videos, they keep saying it looks like a controlled demolition, but how is a building going to fall down any other way when
Right.
it's that big?
Mhm.
They talk about it seems hard to believe. Like a building's not going to, like you had mentioned earlier, go to the side or go to, whatever. So I don't know. That's my take on that. I do think the government took huge advantage of the situation and exploited the people a good bit in the outcome. And I think we suffered a heavy price for it. I do think that no one has been caught due to checking people's shoes and things like that,
Yeah.
including, wasn't there the shoe guy who got away with it?
Well,
So,
the shoe thing was after the shoe guy. It was because of the shoe
oh,
guy.
was it because of the shoe
Yeah.
guy? All right. But yeah, the bottom line is all that nonsense.
You remember the underwear guy? The guy that had the
Underwear.
explosive in his underwear and he just burnt his dick real bad?
That just can't be good. But that's the thing. I think we got huge consequences. And I think it goes back to the government never lets an opportunity go to waste. So
Right.
anyway, that's what I got on that. You guys have thoughts. We'd love to know links and things you found concerning, pictures, anything you can put in the comments. We appreciate it. We love it. Like, subscribe, all that. Questions, concerns, email us at preppingbadass@gmail.com. Otherwise, Kevin, I would say stay safe and we will talk to you guys next week.